Nick Robertson in the Leafs lineup in replacement of Denis Malgin. Mac Hollowell makes his NHL debut. Morgan Rielly, placed on LTIR, will miss at least 10 games or 24 days, and TJ Brodie's injury not healing the way the Leafs thought it would. What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. Before we get into the lineup changes and what that'll mean, let's start with the injuries that broke today. So, Morgan Rielly against the New York Islanders took a knee, essentially knee to side of leg, side of body. Nobody was really at fault for that collision, but he did collide with Kyle Palmieri a minute into the third period. He tried to come out and play another shift, ultimately ended up leaving the game, and has now been placed on LTIR, so he will miss a minimum of 24 days or 10 games, putting him out until December 15th against the New York Rangers. That would be the date that he is eligible to return. I mean, point blank, I talked about it when we heard about Matthews getting hit in the foot with the shot, so if you haven't checked out that video, you can go and do so. While you're at it, you can subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you get notified every time videos like this one drop, or we go live after post games like we will be doing against the New Jersey Devils. So subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on those notifications. But back to Morgan Rielly with the injury. Basically, my whole thought on this at this point is, this team is going to continue to win games. And at this point, it's not really going to matter as long as they make the playoffs. And I don't think they're really going to be in danger of missing that because of how much talent and skill that they have surrounding these guys. We've seen situations where Matthews is out for periods of time. Marner, Rielly before, Brodie, Muzzin, like they have lost key pieces. Even their goaltenders, they've lost for extended periods of time, and they've always found ways to win games. So I'm not overly concerned when it comes to that, and I think you should err on the side of precaution. If a guy is not 100%, maybe he's a little banged up, or could injure something further by going in a game, hold him out. We can hold things over for the time being. Now, the other part of it is also a little bit of a message that needs to be sent to the team. We don't have the big guys. Step up and play. When Austin Matthews has gone out before, we saw tremendous amounts of scoring production from guys lower in the lineup, essentially stepping up, realizing that their best player isn't going to be there as a crutch to get them out of situations because he's the guy who scored 60 goals last year. They elevated their game to that and were able to score some more goals, produce a little bit more, and had that little bit of a kick in the butt to say, hey guys, it's on you now. You need to up your game because he's not here. So in this circumstance, with Morgan Rielly going out, TJ Brodie and Jake Muzzin already being out, this should be the biggest kick in the pants to Timothy Liljegren and Rasmus Sandin. Timothy Liljegren, to me, has looked pretty good since he's come back, but Sandin had struggled to start this year. Now, he does jump in for Austin Matthews and fight, quote-unquote, fight the other night against the Islanders, but it hasn't been the best start to the season for him. A lot of people, especially in our chats, have kind of been coming in here saying Sandin's the guy who's got to sit out when Brodie comes back if they were at full strength. He's been the odd man out based on his play to start this season. This is the opportunity him and Timothy Liljegren need where they can showcase the fact that, hey, those extensions you signed us to, they were worth it. Sheldon Keefe said that Rasmus Sandin is going to get an opportunity to play heavier minutes, more significant minutes, as well as getting some time on the power play. So if this doesn't kick him into gear, kind of wake him up and maybe say, you've got this responsibility you were looking for earlier, now it's here. We're giving it to you on a silver platter. Make the most of it. If he's not able to do that in this period of time, while he's going to be relied upon, while Rielly, Muzzin, and Brodie are out, I don't know what to say about him, really. At that point, maybe you do got to accept that he's the odd man out. Maybe it makes it way more drastic that they need to go out and get a defenseman, because I'm already sitting here saying I think they need one. I think they need to upgrade this D. But if Rasmus Sandin, Timothy Liljegren can't elevate their games, and maybe it's not necessarily like, oh, they're going to will this team to win games, but if they can't just play better while they're in this lineup, when are they going to? You're getting all the minutes. You're getting all the ice time. Step up your game. This is your chance. As far as the Morgan Rielly situation goes, though, he will not require surgery. And the new D pairs with this has now resulted in Mac Hollowell getting to make his NHL debut. He jumped over Victor Mete in terms of the depth for guys who get to go in here, so he will make his debut against the New Jersey Devils. He seems pretty excited about it from all accounts. He did grow up in the Ontario region and said that he was a Leafs fan growing up, but these will be the D pairs in the upcoming games while those guys remain out, barring any changes from Sheldon Keefe. Giordano, Holl, Sandin, Liljegren, Ben, Hollowell. This will be a very, very big test to see what this defense is able to do. As well, can these forwards help them out a little bit by A, playing a more defensive team game, and B, can you score to maybe outscore some of these problems? We haven't really had it so far this year where this team has outscored problems. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't generated offense or haven't been performing at a rate where their expected goals is very high. They have been doing that. They have been generating chances. But at some point here, you just got to blow the doors off some team. And you got to say, we're going to go into a shootout. Maybe you score 3 goals. We're going to score 4. We're going to score 5. We're going to score 6. Can this offense get to that point where they can do so? So as far as Morgan Rielly being out, TJ Brodie and Jake Muzzin, this is going to be a test of what this team can do defensively. Now, I touched on it in the opener a little bit, but TJ Brodie, they said on the broadcast, there wasn't too much information about it, but basically this Leafs team, when they reevaluated Brodie's injury, it wasn't quite where they thought it would be, so it looks like he might miss a little bit more time, so we'll see what happens on the Brodie front, but yet again, to me, it's another situation. Do not rush these guys back. There is no need for it. By the way, Morgan Rielly, for a guy who has been called out essentially by fans, media members for not playing that well to start this season, he is -4. A lot of that is defensively and the fact that he just hasn't scored a goal. If you look at his numbers, he has 16 assists in 20 games, on pace for 66 to finish this season. That is a pretty good season from a defenseman, at least 66 assists. So he has been at least producing from an offensive standpoint, whether you think so or not. 16 assists in 20 games. Pretty good for your defenseman, so that will even be missed there. I mean, a lot of that is going to come from the power play, but yet again, who can step up and fill that role? Now, the other thing that we touched on here, outside of Brodie, Rielly, and Hollowell making his debut, Nick Robertson gets in the lineup here. Now, Nick Robertson is a guy who has played 10 games with the Leafs so far. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. A lot of people are on polar opposite sides on the Nick Robertson debate. Some people love him. He needs to be in the lineup. Other people are on the other side of, if he can't play, don't put him in. I'm on the side of, if he can't play, don't put him in. If you can't trust him and he can't play, don't put him in. For me, when I've watched him out there, he's not necessarily been a difference maker so far. I think he'll be an NHL player. He'll probably get in a good amount of games throughout his career, score a bunch of goals, but if he can't play right now, he is 21 years old, and you can't trust him to go in this lineup, you don't put him in. Now, Sheldon Keefe is going to give him an opportunity here tomorrow night where he's taking out Denis Malgin, replacing him there. And for me, it's a little bit interesting because Denis Malgin so far has been a guy who, has he produced offensively? Has he scored a lot of goals? No, but you know what he has done? He has brought a level of compete, of battle. He has looked pretty like he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders in terms of not making ridiculous plays or dumb turnovers. Of course, they're going to come here and there, but he's also a third-line player. That is what is going to be expected. Now, he wasn't producing offensively, and the one thing that I was always feeling and said in some of the post-game broadcasts is that third line, they're basically a couple of goals away in terms of a couple of goals every now and then away from being an excellent third line. Right now, they're a really good third line with David Kampf and Zach Phillips, and it was Denis Malgin, but they weren't an excellent third line because they just weren't producing. So now you're going to look at a situation where Robertson hops into the second line with John Tavares and William Nylander, or Mitch Marner, or whoever Sheldon Keefe decides to throw over there if he goes in the blender. And then Alex Kerfoot goes down to the third line. I think Kerfoot is a good third line spot player where he can contribute. He can kind of be hidden a little bit in some of those minutes and then go out and play the penalty kill. And yeah, he's a little bit snake bitten. He hasn't been able to score on a lot of these breakaways that he's on. He's made some weird decisions on 2-on-1s and stuff. That being said, he's probably a little bit more used to the offensive style of game here than Denis Malgin has been so far. I mean, we have seen Kerfoot be able to produce. So hopefully going down to that third line, it shakes things up a little bit and allows them to score. This Nick Robertson frontier with him in this lineup, though, there's one thing he can do to prove to us that he deserves to be here, and that is be an effective player. It doesn't necessarily mean go out there and score goals. It doesn't necessarily mean go out there and be a point per game. What it means is creating chances, generating opportunities, knowing his role, being defensively aware. Don't be a net negative, allowing chances against. You need to create some offense. You are an offensive player. You scored 55 goals in 46 games in your final season in the OHL. You're obviously a guy who knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. Showcase some of that. And if you're not going to be the guy scoring, create the chances. Because so far throughout his debut with the Toronto Maple Leafs, his short time that he's been in the Leafs uniform, he hasn't necessarily done that and been a crazy generator. Yes, we've seen it in spurts and we've seen it in little flashes, but it hasn't been consistently there. And if Sheldon Keefe can't trust him to be there defensively or in other aspects of his game to not have turnovers or mental lapses, and the offensive creation and production isn't there, it's understandable why he might sit there and say, I can't put this guy in the lineup. So be tenacious, win battles, win races, make smart plays, create chances. Those things will go a whole long way in the books of Leafs fans and the coaching staff of the Toronto Maple Leafs here. So in summary, Morgan Rielly out on LTIR will miss a minimum of 24 days or 10 games. He can come back December 15th against the New York Rangers. TJ Brodie still not quite in the place they would like him to be in terms of his injury recovery process. Mac Hollowell makes his NHL debut against the New Jersey Devils tomorrow night. And Nick Robertson replacing Denis Malgin in this lineup. Alex Kerfoot going down to the third line. Robertson stepping up with John Tavares on the second line. Leafs fans, thank you guys so much for tuning in here. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe to this channel, hit like on this video, and turn on those notifications so you get notified every single time that we go live on this channel for post games or if we post videos just like this one. Let me know your thoughts about the lineup changes, how you feel about the defense, and what they're going to be able to produce going forwards. Let us know in the comments. I will see you guys real soon. Keep believing.